right, so guys, here's our plan for today. We're going to be reviewing Chapter 4 like we always review, and then we're going to be starting Chapter 5. If you have not yet put in your rate of return, I haven't started grading those yet. So, you still have an opportunity to get that in and not get charged a late penalty. If you get it in before I start grading, which is probably around tomorrow at 9 a.m., you're going to be fine. A reminder, your stock gain portfolios are due on the 9th. You guys have copies of an A-grade paper. This Friday is the last trading day in the month of October. That means that's how you're going to do all your math. You're going to see how your stocks are done. By the way, guys, on the stock portfolio and the stock game, any questions on that stuff? Any questions I can answer for you guys about what I'm looking for? If you do have questions, you can hit me up. In fact, I'll gladly even meet with your group. If you guys have questions, what I am going to encourage you, check on the following. Make sure you cite your sources. Make sure you check your math. Make sure you check your math. I'm saying that twice because sometimes people don't, and they divide their entire portfolio, their profit or their loss, by 100,000 instead of what they actually spent. So, guys, keep that in mind. You have a copy of an A-grade paper, use it. A reminder, due on the 2nd of November. You don't have to do any discussion postings in terms of responding to anybody else, but I am giving you an easy 10 points just for telling me what franchise you would start if you could. Now, here's the deal. We're going to get through Chapter 5 today. Not the whole chapter. We're going to start it today. We're going to get through Chapter 5 and Chapter 6, and then our second exam is going to be on 4 chapters. This is your big exam of the semester coming up for Test 2, because it is our final in this class cumulative. It is not. Guys, we had a really solid B average for the entire class. We had a lot of A's in this class, a couple of C's, and a lot of really strong midpoint grades. Let's keep that up, because if you can do that for Test 2, there's no question in my mind we can do the final exam online, with the exception being if the administration tells me I'm not allowed to. What the administration tells me goes. So I have to abide by their standards. I suspect in the year we're in and the flexibility we're being asked to do, if I get asked, or if I'm telling the administration I'd like to do an online final, they'll probably support me in doing that. But we're going to all find out together. So after we get through the next 2 chapters, which are pretty straightforward, we're going to do our second test in this class. But we're going to start off today with some review. So help me out here, guys. Let's see what you remembered about how companies, partnerships, and sole proprietorships are set up. All right, a business that's owned and managed by one person. What is that? Is that a sole proprietorship? What is it, sir? It is a sole proprietorship. Absolutely. Now, what percentage comes closest to the amount of currency that goes through corporations in terms of companies that are identified as corporations? What percentage of total receipts? Yes, sir. Yep. If you said 80 or above, you are correct. All right. So we got Bill. He owns his own business, but things aren't good financially. He's worried the bank is going to take his house and his car. Is it because his business has what? Limited liability, unlimited liability, problems, or shareholders? Why can they take all this stuff, Nick? He's got unlimited liability. If limited means they can't hit your personal assets. Unlimited means everything is fair game. All right, guys. We have this scenario. All owners share operating expenses and liability. Do we have what? Do we have a limited partnership, an LLC, a general partnership, or a cooperative? And look for the key term here. If everybody is sharing everything equally, what do we have? What kind of organization do we have? We have people who are all working together on something. All owners share the same amount of responsibility. It's actually a general partnership. If you saw the word partnership, think of partnership. If you're all in it together, that's an unclear question. For the test, we'll basically say if you have 2 or more people working together, or 2 people working together and sharing the load, it will be a partnership, not a corporation. Which of the following is not an advantage of a partnership? Is it more financial resources, shared knowledge, longer survival, or difficulty to terminate? What do you think? Which is not an advantage? Which of those things is not good? Think about marriage. Oh, I would say that it's not C, because you're going to survive longer if you have a partner. D, absolutely. But D also stands for divorce. Anybody who's ever gone through a divorce knows it's not easy to terminate those kind of partnerships. We got a state chartered entity with an authority to act and have liability separate from its owners. We have a sole proprietorship, a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC. Which is the best answer? Oh, Oh no, we have people who own stock. We have, the B is the best answer. It's a conventional corporation. An S Corp, it could be an S Corp too. I actually have a typo on the slide. That's the way my day is going today. But it should be B. It should be a conventional corporation. Sorry about that, guys. Which of the following is not an advantage of an LLC? Is it limited liability, the ability to sell stock, flexible distribution of profits and losses, or operating flexibility, which is not an advantage of an LLC? What does an LLC not have? Yes, sir. B is correct. You can't have stock in an LLC. All right. Which type of corporation pays the highest taxes? A sole proprietorship, C Corp, S Corp, or LLC, generally speaking? It's a C Corp. You got it. B. All right. True or false? S Corps are limited to 150 shareholders. Tricky question. Is that true or false? What do you think? It is false. Anybody know how many shareholders it is? You got it. It's 100. And you have a choice in how you want to be taxed. True or false? Companies who are acquired have less say in things than companies who are merging. So if you got a big fish eating a little fish, does the little fish have much say? What do you think? I know it's Monday morning, guys. But true or false? If you are being acquired, you have less say in things than a company is merging with another company. It is true. Absolutely right. Thank you. All right. If Ford, we got Ford, who is a mature automaker, merged with Elio. And that's a startup car company. What kind of merger would it be? So we got two companies and different points of development. Is that a vertical, horizontal, conglomerate, or stupid merger? There are different points of development in the same industry. Any guesses? Okay, let's illustrate the point for you. Right here, we have Ford. Right here, we have Elio. And over here, I got an eraser, so I'll just throw this down. We got Chrysler. Right now, these two companies are in the same point of development. So if I wanted to move from Ford to Chrysler, am I moving vertically or horizontally? I'm moving horizontally. Elio is in a different point of development. So what kind of movement would that be? Moving on up. It's vertical. So it'll be a vertical merger, guys. Think of those terms when we're thinking about different kinds of mergers. My props are terrible. I need to come up with some better props, especially, by the way, even though we're online Friday, feel free to wear your favorite costume. That is a vertical merger. All right. If the individual, if we have the whole franchise situation, because we're talking about franchises, the individual, or it could be a couple of folks, who chooses to become a part of a franchise, is that a franchisee, a franchisor, a leasee, or a leaseor? It is A. It's a franchisee. Absolutely correct. Tell me one advantage. Actually, I would like to have one advantage and one disadvantage. This side's going to tell me an advantage. This side's going to tell me a disadvantage. Tell me, to my left, what is one advantage if you decide to to get a franchise as your form of business ownership? What's one advantage you have in getting into business? You guys are starting a Chick-fil-A. What's an advantage? Yes, sir. Very, very much well-known brand. What's a disadvantage, guys? Yes. You got to pay your dues. You got to buy your supplies, and those are very good answers, guys. All right. Here's a question. It's an open-ended question. Why are older people starting businesses, guys? Why are so many older folks starting businesses these days? Folks even older than me. Why are they starting businesses? Yes, sir. They have more time and more money and maybe even expertise. Those are all good answers. Thank you for that. All right, guys. That is our Chapter 4 review. I'm not sure why my voice is cracking so much. Maybe I've been breathing too much smoke from the campfire this weekend. It could have happened. But we're going to be getting into entrepreneurship in the next part of things here, guys. But before we move on to Chapter 5, because we already covered a substantial amount of material today, does anybody have a question before we move forward today? Question or comment? All right, well, let's dive in a little bit, guys. We're going to keep the pace up for the next class or two because we want to make up a little bit of ground here. By show of hands, who here either wants to be their own boss or own their own business? We got some entrepreneurs in this room. What kind of business are you hoping to take over or run next? Fantastic. Who else has their hands up? What kind of business do you want? you were going to own your own business, what would you hope to do?
Right now,
Awesome. By the way, there's a big market for that in the gig economy, by the way. A good friend of mine does video work for other people on the side of his gig, and he's getting so busy he's going to have to pick between careers soon. Who else had their hand up for a business? I'm curious what you guys are curious to do. Seriously, share me your ideas with me. What kind of business?
like my own sports academy.
What a fantastic idea. So you can make very tailored training to people, correct? Yeah, what a great idea. There's all kinds of advantages to being your own boss. Now, guys, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and my particular kind of entrepreneurial spirit is geared toward nonprofits. I do fundraising. I started my own company to do nonprofit work, but it's still entrepreneurial. I'm asking you guys to tell me in your own words, what do you think it takes to be an entrepreneur? If you would, go to polev.com/KentTonkin063 and tell me what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Let's see what you guys come up with our word poetry this morning. polev.com/KentTonkin063. And I'm going to participate too. That patience word is getting big. Wow. Keep going. If you haven't had your word in there yet, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Lots of D words up there. Dedication, determination, discipline. I love it. Risk. Risk and perseverance. Very good. Tolerance. Failure. Yeah, the willingness to fail. Absolutely. These are all good words, guys. Well, one of the ones that strikes me, a lot of these words strike me because you guys are thinking about good things here. For the people who picked failure, I love that word is up there. Why is that such an important word when it comes to entrepreneurship? Yes, sir. You got to make your mistakes. Yes, sir. You got to be able to learn from your mistakes, right? I know that comes down to, when we think about the greatest basketball players of all time, I know there's a lot of people who are fans of Kobe and everything else, and I respect that. But one of the people I think is the most quotable is Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan always would say that the shots he made were because of the ones he kept at. He didn't give up on it. So I love the failures up there. Somebody picked patience. Tell me why they picked that word. Why did you say patience? Because a few of you did. It's a big word up there. Yes, sir. There's probably going to be a lot of late nights and early mornings, too. Maybe you're not getting all your money as quickly as you'd like. How about determination? I love that word. Who picked determination and why? Determination. I love it. Will somebody please share with me why they picked that one? Because you guys all picked good words. I'm telling you, you answered the question well. Or if somebody would say discipline, will somebody tell me why they picked that word? Pretty please. Yes, sir.
Well, and I think discipline when it comes to this, I think that you guys have to choose yourself, not try to be anything else, because otherwise you're not going to be happy with the result. Very actually on the basis they won't be happy.
So if you got this idea and everybody else in the world is telling you you're wrong, but you're willing to stick with it, you can make something of yourself, guys. I want to point out to you guys, I know that we love talking about Amazon because they're so effing big. But Amazon, guys, started off by one guy having a vision. Now, he came from a wealthy family. He wasn't struggling. But in the 1990s, people didn't do what Amazon does now. And he believed in it and lost money for over a decade until he got it right. So to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have these ideas. Innovation, leadership, tolerance, the idea of having risk. You got to have some money too. And I love the platform is up there as well. Guys, any point today, feel free to jump in on these comments, because what we're going to be talking about today and into the next class or two is what makes people take that entrepreneurial challenge. What is it in someone that makes them say, I'm not happy just working for somebody else and sticking with the same old, same old. I have my own ideas. So what's an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is somebody who's willing to take a leap. Somebody's willing to take a risk to try something maybe that hasn't been done before, or to do it differently. For example, anybody in the world with the money can open up a Ford dealership. You can sell Fords. There's nothing in the world wrong with that, by the way. But not everybody's Elon Musk. Not everybody wants to change the way cars are sold and the actual products themselves. We like to refer to these folks as visionaries. They're people who have new ideas. In the last year of your lives, who here has taken an Uber or a Lyft? Why are Uber and Lyft so much better than traditional taxi cabs? Yes, sir.
Easier to get now.
Yeah, I mean, you got an app on your phone and it shows up that before you did Uber and Lyft, has anybody here taken any traditional taxi cab? What's the process like? It's painful. Yeah, it's painful. What's the longest you've ever waited for a cab if you call it a cab? It's ridiculous, isn't it? The longest I've ever waited for an Uber has been less than 5 minutes. I remember, this was years ago, one of my best friends was getting married, and we had a bachelor party for him in Pittsburgh. No body details. It wasn't that kind of bachelor party. We just got together for dinner. But we had about 12 of us, and we couldn't fit in a single taxi cab. So we had to call 2 different cabs to come get us. The first cab showed up in about 5 minutes. Great. The second one didn't show up for 35 or 40 minutes. What did that do to the party? It basically wrecked the entire party. So the folks who came up with Uber essentially saw a need and flipped the business model on its head. Why does Uber work so much better than traditional taxi cabs? What do you guys think? What are things that Uber does differently? Yeah, tell me more about that. I love that part of Uber too, by the way. You don't have to set that out there and flag them down or anything else. I've had some experiences with crazy Uber drivers. I'm not going to lie there either. But it's an interesting business model, because if you work for a cab company, for example, the cab company has the maintenance and the upkeep on the car. If you work for a cab company, they do the scheduling. If you work for a cab company, they tell you when you're going to work. If you work for Uber, you work when you want to work. Uber doesn't have to maintain your car for you because you're doing that yourself. And they're distributing more of the cost to the individual and turning it into a service. So somebody, for example, who starts a bookstore, this is a very easy example. We could call them a business person, a small business person. Nothing wrong with that. Jeff Bezos isn't just a bookstore owner, he's an entrepreneur because he reinvented the way we buy stuff and sell stuff online. That's the difference, guys. All of these folks, though, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a small business owner, guys, we start small. 8 out of every 10 of all the small businesses in the United States have one person working for them. They're an extremely small business. I'm not going to read these stats off to you, but most people in the United States start their employment in a small business. We have great experiences. Has anybody here had the experience already in their lives of working for a small business? So, Nick, who did you work for?
I worked in a sports shop down in the mall.
And what did you learn from that experience?
During the pandemic, there wasn't as much of a need or want because people were saving their money. So they really didn't have the money to go out and buy luxury items that they wanted, not needed.
So it taught you a little bit about the current state of the market too. Now, did you bring any of that expertise back into your personal business too? Yeah, so it's a great training ground. Working in a small business is a great way to learn the ropes if you want to do something. It's a great way to learn the business that you want to be in. And so when we get to large businesses, really large businesses, we've got about 19,000 in the United States that have more than 500 employees. So the amount of big corporations does not make up the lion's share of people who are doing businesses. So about 1 person in 4 works for a company that has fewer than 50 people in it. By this standard, St. Francis is actually a pretty large business, even though we're a small school. Big companies are few and far between. So there's a lot of room to grow. So we're going to talk a lot about why you might be ready to be an entrepreneur. But I'm going to summarize it for you guys. If you have wanted a product that does not exist, you might be an entrepreneur. If you've got an idea to improve a product that does exist and to make it better, you might be an entrepreneur. If you do not like working for other people and would rather be your own boss, you might be an entrepreneur. But here's the big one, guys. Even if you have all those things, and even if you're a confident person and you believe in yourself, there's got to be a place in the market for your idea. You've got to have something that people actually want to buy. You've got to be able to position your product so people want to be able to buy it. I'll give you a great example. By show of hands here, how many of you have an Apple product for your smartphone? Apple was not the first smartphone. The first smartphone was arguably a palm-powered Kyocera. I own one of these things. It's a monstrosity. This thing's huge and goes for like an hour of battery life. But Apple was the first one to really make them desirable, even more than BlackBerry. So you could have a great idea and still not sell if people aren't interested in your product. So the idea being, how defensible is the concept? What that means is, can you patent it, or has somebody already done it? Would somebody want your product or service? These are all things that go into the magic equation of being successful as an entrepreneur. And we got more people of color who are getting in all the time to create successful businesses. This is no longer a game just for old white men. This is a game for everybody to get into. Guys, in terms of the types of entrepreneurs that we have, we got three basic types. We got the classic, we got the multipreneur, and the intrapreneur. The classic, you're going to be very familiar with these folks. They basically might be somebody who has a great idea for a new business. You might have that one big idea for your whole life, and that is it. If you're Mark Zuckerberg, you had one great idea and you've been riding it for 15 years. Made a ton of money doing it, but he hasn't really been a serial entrepreneur. So somebody had one big idea. Classic entrepreneurs are great. And then we have other folks who we refer to as micropreneurs, and they start small and they stay small. I'm going to give you a great example on this one, guys. I don't know if this is going to date me. It's going to show you how old I'm getting. It's why my bones creak so much when I get up, and I have to stretch at the beginning of class. How many of you have ever heard of the classic rock band Boston? Yeah, I mean, in terms of guitar rock, they're a classic, right? Everybody knows Boston. What most people don't know is Tom Schultz, the guitar player who founded the band Boston, created a product called the Rocktron. The Rocktron was a little amplifier that you could plug headphones into and plug your electric guitar into and practice silently. It never became a big business because he didn't want it to be. That's how he created his sound, was with this product, and he sold it to other people. So that's an example of a micropreneur, somebody who starts small and stays small. It all depends what your goals are. Then we got multipreneurs, and we're talking about people who cannot get enough of innovating. I think of Elon Musk, for example. Guys, we got SpaceX, we got Tesla, we got the Cybertruck that's coming out now, all these crazy new ideas. If you're Jeff Bezos, for example, Jeff Bezos, yes, he still makes a lot of money buying and selling stuff on the internet, but other than buying and selling stuff in terms of Amazon selling products, does anybody here know where Amazon makes a big chunk of their money? I'll give you a hint. It's something that's actually intangible. It's something you actually can't touch. Where do websites live, guys? If you hit Google today, where are the electrons actually going, Paige? Any ideas? I'm not asking for a specific location, but a concept. They're on a computer somewhere, right? So if you're Amazon, you've got this thing called Amazon Web Services, AWS. By the way, Dr. Fry's son works for these guys. Amazon Web Services hosts a substantial part of all the websites in the United States, including the federal government. So a lot of the stuff that's our government websites and everything else reside on Amazon Web Services. So these folks are not content with having one great idea and riding into the sunset. They're going to continue to innovate. And then we got entrepreneurs. Remember, we were talking about entrepreneurs. There was this guy we talked about early in the semester named Spencer Silver. Remember I talked about accidental invention. What was it? I'm sorry? No, it wasn't the Big Mac. It was a sticky note, the Post-it note. And so he invented it while he was working for somebody else. Why might you want to be an entrepreneur? Well, it's pretty nice to be able to do creative things working for somebody else. For example, I get to create new programs and ideas, and St. Francis still is paying my salary and my health care and my retirement, and I can still take a little risk with not my own money. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do. Here's the other part about it, guys. If you're an entrepreneur, for example, you also might be able to hone your skills and come up with a great idea that you could spin off and take with you. Now, here's the challenge to being an entrepreneur. Our good buddy Spencer Silver, I'm going to bring his picture up just so good old Spencer can look in on us. Even his picture is silver. That's how silver he is. Guys, did he personally become wealthy for his product? No. The trick is, if you're creating things for somebody else, what you're giving in exchange for innovating is intellectual property. This cannot be overstated, guys. Whether it's our computers, whether it's our smartphones, whether it is anything we're doing with Uber, the technology, the value isn't always in the hardware. The value is in the idea. You can patent ideas, guys. I got to go through a patent process when I was a younger man. That was one of the most painful things I've ever done in my life in terms of writing up something to prove that our idea was unique. But if you get it, it works out well. Check this out, guys. In 1997, I've mentioned this in class before, but I'm mentioning it again because this could show up as a bonus question on an exam. In 1997, Amazon, when they were a new company, patented something we take for granted right now. Anybody remember what it was? Boom, man, there's a gold star above your head today because you just nailed it. One-click purchasing. Could you imagine today saying every time you have a one-click purchase on a website that you have to pay a royalty to Amazon? Well, that expired in 2017. The 20-year window on that expired. But if you can come up with a cool idea like that, you can make money just on an idea. And there's also something called patent squatting, but we're not going to get into that in this class because we're not talking about intellectual property. But we know, for example, we've got several different types of entrepreneurs. We've got classic entrepreneurs. We've got multipreneurs. That sounds like I'm talking about a farm product, doesn't it? It almost sounds like manure. I don't mean that at all. And then we're talking about intrapreneurs. Those are three different types of entrepreneurs. What's different about an entrepreneur? Actually, let's put you guys on the spot for a second. Who here can tell me a difference between an entrepreneur and a small business owner? What's the difference? Entrepreneurs can be small business owners, but what's the difference between the two? Yes, sir.
A small business owner could be a set business already. Like an entrepreneur didn't create anything or create its own to like the small business owner didn't create that.
Exactly right. The difference is innovation. And the things that motivate people to become entrepreneurs can vary from one person to the next. We're all very different people and we have different motivations. Guys, we're going to talk about this slide about individual traits. Then I'm going to pause for our first question of the day. What I loved is everything that is up here right now, you guys basically captured in our little word art today. You already got it, guys. The people have to have a big idea. They have to take care of themselves. They got to be independent. There's always going to be some level of risk if you're playing with money, whether it's your money or somebody else's. A visionary is somebody who can see things down the road that nobody else can see yet. I can't even imagine. If we think about Uber, I love Uber because it works so well. People didn't think about that 10 years ago. We could have never imagined that. And that goes along with creativity as well. You've got to have a lot of energy, and you got to be willing to put the hours in because sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, the paychecks don't start coming for some time. These are all things that people need to be successful. And again, somebody who's creative can come up with new ideas. Before I move on, guys, I have a question or comment from somewhere within the room. What would you like to ask? Or make a statement? Or request a song? Or maybe think about what your life is all about? Or ask questions about your relationship? Maybe ask me for some recipes. I wouldn't ask me for recipes. My wife is the cook in the house. But somebody, please ask me a question about something. Or I will randomly call on someone. What would you like to ask? What do you think? All right, guys. You put me on the spot here. I am going to randomly. Abby, you're up. What would you like to ask? I'm good. I'm good. I'm having a Monday, though. What should we get people talking a little more? I know it's 9 a.m. What's something you think would get people talking? No idea. What would you guys like to talk about? Yes.
The upcoming election.
That's nothing brings the energy up in the room like politics, man. What would you like to talk about with the upcoming election?
You excited?
I'll be excited for it to be done. I'll be excited for it to be over. Because here's the trick, guys. next Tuesday on election day, I'm going to be wearing a purple shirt because red and blue make purple. Because I got friends who are super red, I got friends who are super blue, and they're all my friends. I want it to be over, and I want people to be civil, and I want people to be able to respect people for having their own opinions. That's what I want out of the election. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts about this? Are you looking forward to it being over?
I think it's going to be like the craziest month we've had in America in a long time. With just rioting and one side, whoever wins is going to say it was rigged. They said it wasn't a fair election, and it's just going to be crazy.
I think that I'm hoping it doesn't get violent, but I think it is going to be crazy. So, yes, sir.
I got two questions.
Yes.
The first one, how many recounts do you think will be called for?
I don't even know. Here's what it's going to come down to. And again, I will not make a statement about my personal political beliefs. That is not my place in a classroom. That's up to you guys. I will say, regardless of what side wins, unless it is a decisive victory, if it was like for something like, if 70% of all the votes went for one candidate or the other, I think they might walk away from it. If it's closer than if it's like 55 or 60%, there's going to be a massive amount of recounts. Then there's going to be the absentee ballots, and then there's going to be the mail-in ballots, and there's going to be examinations of paper ballots. I don't know if you guys, because you're students of history, the 2000 election is kind of the prototype for this. Does anybody know what happened there? The hanging chad. What it came down to, the state of Florida was too close to call. And the state of Florida is one of the big super delegate states, basically where, not delegate states, but super electoral states, where if you win Florida, you generally win. And it came down to Gore and Bush in that election. And they were actually examining paper ballots to determine who actually had more ballots because the ballots themselves were flawed and people weren't filling them out correctly. Ultimately, both sides claimed victory, finally during a recount. Al Gore, I will say this, and this is outside of politics, when they said basically, look, you're the loser, you didn't make it, he finally did. He said, I'm going to be the bigger man about it. Let's get forward. Let's let the country continue. I think that's the way politics should work. Yes?
The second one is, like, I've noticed it more than, like, any other election that I've been alive for. Like, they are really, like, every news source, every social media source, like, they're trying their best to get everyone out to vote. Like, I feel like it's never been, like, everyone needs to go out and vote, like, this big before. I was wondering, like, what the cause of that is.
Because, well, here's what I'm going to say about it,
why
too.
this election?
As much I can say I'm tired about the election, I'm tired of hearing about it because I'm getting so much. When you get old like me, they'll send you stuff in the mail, and I'm literally getting enough stuff where if I had a wood stove, I could heat my house with election literature. That's how much I'm getting. That being said, I'm kind of excited about that part of it. And the fact that, like, whichever side you're on, the people actually care enough to get excited to vote. Man, whatever you're into, whatever your beliefs are, I support that. You know, be passionate about it. And what I really want to see, honest to God, I'm going on record, I'm saying this into a microphone right now. The two people who are running for president right now are older than all of the other people who are still alive who were president. These two guys are older than Bill Clinton, who's still alive. They're older than Bush, who's still alive. They're older than Obama, who's still alive. We need young blood in politics. We need people who are like, you know, the age to be president of the United States is 35. We need 40-year-olds or 35-year-olds to be bringing new ideas into policy. Because when I asked you guys earlier this semester, you know, how you would spend tax dollars, you had better ideas than most of the people twice your age. So I think we need younger people in politics. That's my 2 cents. That's my belief.
Like the NFL was making commercials, the NBA was like doing stuff when they were playing in the bubble. Like it was all like we vote, like the NFL votes and all that stuff. Like I feel like it wasn't like that in 2016.
Hopefully the young folks are listening too. Yes.
I mean, kind of to respond to that, you gotta understand, this whole year has been like messed up.
It's a mess.
And if you're not really sitting in our shoes, so y'all really don't understand. But there's a lot of like fucked up shit that we have to do every day when we wake up. And that's why like NBA and NFL, everybody like that is saying go vote. Because we have somebody in power that's not really pertaining to us. He's not looking at us trying to help us. And we're struggling out there.
I support all of you.
That's all I'm saying. Cause I'm gonna get really touchy on that.
It's all good. It's all good. You're voting though, right?
Yeah.
All right. That to me is the key point. Make your voices heard, guys. Wherever you stand on the argument, make your voice heard, make your voice count. Register. It's too late to register, but if you are registered, vote. Any other comments, guys? I appreciate your opinions. So, wow. So you guys are awake today. I love it. We're gonna give you some. After this stuff, this is gonna be easy, guys. In terms of entrepreneurship, you know it's funny because you need a segue because we went from this hardcore thing about politics, which is good, and then we're going back into entrepreneurship. So how do we do it? It's like you gotta have a sequence in between. So I think the sequence is gonna be. We're gonna say right now, at this point, this is the commercial break, so we can get to the next chapter. So the commercial break is, hey guys, make sure you're eating your vegetables. Make sure you are eating a healthy, balanced diet. Make sure to eat lots of green leafy vegetables. And we're back into today's program. Guys, people who are good at technology aren't always good with people. Have any of you in this class ever had a teacher that you knew was smart but could not teach? Raise your hand if you've been in that movie. Yeah. There's lots of really smart people. It doesn't mean they're not smart. It means that maybe they're not good with people. So, if you're an entrepreneur and you're technically competent, you might need to bring some personality people into your room with you. If you are a manager, if you got somebody if you have a great big picture idea but you can't put it together, you might need to pull some more folks in. What I'm bringing up in this point is that even the best entrepreneurs need to sometimes build organizations. They need to create organizations. And sometimes they start off with small businesses. What is a small business? There's no definitive answer. Some people have different standards. The rule of thumb that our text says is basically if you have more than one employee but fewer than 50, you have a small business. Some say 500. That definition is up to you. I think a good definition is 50 or less for a small business because once you get beyond 50 people, you're doing substantial revenue, you are starting to move toward becoming a big business. Here's some of the innovations that have come out of small business, guys. The Wright brothers and Kitty Hawk down in Kill Devil Hills, right outside of Outer Banks. Two guys who own a bicycle shop created the first functional airplane. They did what science said was impossible. Two guys literally who own a bicycle shop built the first functional airplane, and here they are flying a Kitty Hawk. This piece of wood you see here that says Apple Computer on it, in 1975, I believe, was the first Apple computer. Steve Jobs literally built a computer in a wooden housing. That's the first Apple. The Fender Stratocaster, one of the guitars that's changed the way rock and roll was made, was invented by Leo Fender in his shop in California. So a single person or a couple of people created these things, and they have taken on lives of their own. So you could be a small business and still do big things. So in terms of why so many people are becoming entrepreneurs right now, we've got this whole entrepreneurial drive in your generation and in the millennial generation, for example, and people are starting their own businesses. Who here has ever heard the expression, in addition to your day gig, you got to have a hustle? Have you guys ever heard that? Have people told you that? What does that mean?
You gotta do something on the side.
Yeah, and why is that such a great idea? I think it's a great idea. Exactly right. So we got another source of income. That could be our source of innovation, and we can make a little bit of money off of it as well. Your generation saw your parents back in 2008, a lot of them lose their wealth, lose their corporate value, lose their retirement. And you guys don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. In addition, a lot of people in your age group want more flexible lifestyles. You can make as much money as you want to make, or you don't have to work as much as you want. So in terms of how many employees work for how many businesses, in terms of percentage, again, if we get to the 20 to 49 employees out of a small business, that's a relatively small percentage of all small businesses. The biggest share is a 1 to 4 person company. So innovation comes from small companies. There's fewer barriers. We can be more flexible. We can be quicker in our ideas and our innovation. So again, that is kind of a rule of thumb as well. I know we're moving quickly today. Actually, you know what? This is going to be, I think, a good place for us to pick up on Wednesday because we're going to get into this process. But before I let you go, because we're going like 10 minutes early today, I need one final, actually, I would like somebody, because we have all these challenges ahead, we got an election, we got bad vibes, we got 2020, which is messing with our heads. Will somebody tell me in the entire class, can you say something positive or inspiring to put us out into the rest of our day?
We got 4 weeks left of school.
That's very positive, very inspiring. Guys, have a wonderful day. Sir.